All right, guys, this is going to be my first attempt at trying to get a good GoPro video up near the spindle. So I've done some testing, tool changes to make sure that the my mount doesn't interfere with the carousel, the tool changer, and everything should be pretty good. So I'm going to try to just give you one complete shot of this operation. We're going to do everything at once here on one side of the jaw anyway. We'll start to flip the jaw off and finish the back side, finish off the top hat portion. So hopefully this is going to be a interesting video to watch. Part of my learning, part of my testing, and learning how to operate and program using the conversational programming here on the Milltronics mill. think that went pretty successfully. Well, the one thing that I did forget to do is I forgot to change my shutter speed on the GoPro. In order to film in here, I have to change it to 100 frames a second, and I forgot to do that, so hopefully that video is going to turn out okay. But this has been pretty exciting getting to this point and running it by myself. I will say that I've had to jump on the phone with Steve, who helped train me on this, to kind of guide me through this again. And whenever I go to set up to do the second op, basically mill the hat off of it, I'm probably going to have to get on the phone so that he can kind of coach me through the programming again. And it's just going to take some practice and some constant use for me to get familiar, remembering everything that you got to punch in there and tell it what to do whenever you're machining. But I think that shot turned out pretty good. So I had you mounted like up here on the spindle, and I made sure that it was back on this side, because whenever the tool changes, the carousel actually comes over around the spindle here. So I got to make sure I'm on that side and there's nothing hitting the carousel. So a little bit of learning as far as how to place cameras in here as well, so that I can kind of get some video of this. Also, I wanted to mention that I was using the air blast, and what I was doing was just manually turning air on and off. So I can turn it on there and turn it off. And one of the reasons I was doing that is because some of those ops really didn't need the air, and help out with the audio a little bit, so you guys can kind of hear the cuts instead of air blowing into the mic. So I do have one more of these to do the first op on. We'll set this last one in there, and I'll probably set a different position here with the camera so you guys get a little bit different view. But I thought that looked pretty cool, being able to see the carousel and the tool changes and everything on that first shot there. So that took 5 minutes and 42 seconds. All right, so that's 4 of these finished for op 1. Here are the other 3 right here. So now what we're gonna have to do is just reconfigure our setup so that we can flip them over in a finished state and finish milling the top of that off. Do that, do a chamfer on the back side, and these guys should be done. Pretty cool little project for our first test run. By the way, can you hear the Kaiser compressor running? That just kicked on. I thought this would be a fun little update. You can kind of hear, you know, the noise level at which the air center is, how loud it is when it's running. You can see that it's not very loud at all. It's not obnoxious in any way. And after it runs for a little bit, I'm already used to it, but I did want to point that out and give you kind of like a little update on that. Run of the mill obviously uses a little more air than normal than any other machine I have in here, because we have this through spindle air after the spindle turns off, making sure that it doesn't put any allow any coolant to kind of like work its way up into the spindle. Always got a positive pressure down, although we're not running any coolant. But they said it also helps provide this, it cools the spindle as well after you've been running. So I'm gonna reconfigure this setup for our op 2, and once we have this figured out, I'll bring you guys back and show you the conclusion of our brass soft jaws. So we're setting up for the second op on our brass soft jaws. We got the part flipped over there, And now we need to indicate on one of our holes so that we can establish the center line of the dimensions that we previously machined in there. Okay, we're in the center of our workpiece there, where we need to be. And we can preview this, what we're going to be doing. So we'll face the top off, and then it's going to mill the rest of the top hat off of it, mill the sides, and then it's going to clean it up, and that should match up with the rest of the vise that we've already machined, and it'll chamfer it and then chamfer the holes. So we'll give this a shot, see how it works. Looks great. Did a pretty good job there. It's not lining up perfectly with my previous cuts, but it's darn close. I had to do some indicating on the vise because the vise wasn't perfectly trimmed. I think that's part of our problem there, but I think this is gonna be great for a soft jaw. That side matched up really nice. This side I can tell it's got a little bit of an edge there, probably a thousandth or two. Look at that. Got a completed soft jaw. Well, we're moving along. We've got our first pair of our soft jaws made. This is such a great thing to kind of start with and start learning on. And it definitely shows that there's a lot to figure out. There's a lot to learn and continue to improve on. This part being the alignment of, you know, you machine your first op, and then you want to set the part down in the vise and then machine the second op, and lining up on this edge seems to be pretty tricky. And I checked the vise jaw, and it was, or the mod vise, and it actually wasn't trimmed perfectly in line with our axis. So I did that, thinking that that should cure the problem. I mean, it needs to be trimmed as close as you can get anyway. All right, John, I got it to within 3/10 down the length of this jaw here. My question is all of the holes on the plate, are they off, or was it just the vise? That's what I'm just trying to figure out. Do we need to retrim the entire fixture plate with some pins and a parallel, or do you think it's just the vise itself? So this is the second one. This is the one that we just did, and it's near perfect, but it's not perfect, because I don't know if you can see that on video, but there's a little, I mean, just a whisper of an edge right there. And same thing on this side, it's just the opposite. But it's extremely close, and it's definitely good enough for a practice session and making soft jaws. But obviously we want to continue to learn and improve and make the, you know, if these are manufactured parts that we're doing for customers, we want them to be as perfect as we can. But definitely having fun and learning how to operate this machine. So we've got 2 more pieces to go there. Try to get a couple more fun shots to share of the machining, and then this guy will be done. I do want to try doing an engraving feature on here with my logo, and Steve at Milltronics has helped me with a little program putting my logo. And the idea that I had was right on the top in the middle here, we can engrave our little A-Bomb 79 logo on there. So we'll try that towards the end once we get these other 2 milled. So I've been playing around with the engraving feature. I've had some help from Steve up there at Milltronics. He was giving me a hand with this. And the first side, this is the second side here, ended up having a little goof up there, and I'll show it to you. But we've got the first one done. Now we've got it set, and there it is. We got our little A-Bomb 79 logo engraved in there. Go ahead and loosen this up and show you. I know it's hard to see the reflection on that brass, but there we go. We've got a logo. So if I flip it over, bam, there's our goof up. It's like, I don't know what happened. I set the Z at 0 on the top of the surface here, but when it came down, and thankfully I had my rapids turned down. I was adjusting the rapid. I had it down here on like 5 or 10, and I thought it was getting ready to start engraving, so I turned it up, and as soon as I did, it just plunged down into that part there. And so I don't know, it's a witness mark, you know. It's a rookie mark. Nothing wrong with that. Something to remind us during our training, but I think that's going to work out pretty good. So I'll go ahead and finish these last 3, get those engraved, and I'll put my camera in there so you can get a video of what it looks like when it's engraving. And then I want to go put a pair of these on the vise and get this little practice project finished up. All right, guys, my practice pieces are finally finished up, and besides the one little goof up that we had, everything worked out pretty good. They're not perfect by no means, and I'm sure a lot of you guys that are really good and, you know, have a lot of experience on the CNCs can do a lot better job than I've done right here. But this is part of the learning process of getting on there and start filling the machines out, learning how to properly program it and make adjustments as we need to whenever we run into little things with the, you know, the tooling. Just like that, that little goof up that I did there, where it ended up being the Z was set at the wrong depth, and I don't know, I still don't know how that happened, but you know, I was able to go in there and reprobe the top of the surface and get it set properly. But you know, it's just a little witness mark as part of our learning experience there. So these are going to be for this Wilton Vise. I can't remember if I showed you guys that already in the previous video, but this is what they're going to be going on, and I'm probably just going to keep them on there permanently. It's a really good mod for vices like this that's easily replaceable. That way you can use it more as a machinist vise, so you can put parts in here and you don't have to worry about the factory jaws like this, you know, scratching up your parts and gouging into it. This will be a soft surface that doesn't do any harm on your work pieces. So I'm going to get one of these pair mounted up and show you what they look like. I like it. That looks good. That is some proper soft jaws on there now. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, I'm pretty happy with what I've come up with here on our first actual test piece for the Milltronics machines. You know, part of my learning and education and figuring out how to utilize these guys. I had my one little goof up there, but that's all part of the learning process, right? I'm just happy with it, and we've got some nice soft jaws over there on the Wilton Vise. It's going to be a great thing to remind me, you know, from here on out. You know, that was the first parts that I made in the shop on the CNC machine that I can actually use every single day. A lot to learn. You know, it's going to be nice having these machines to make basic simple parts like this, or hopefully we're going to be able to get into some more complex parts with complex geometries and shapes and everything like that, you know, and being able to put my logo in there. That's super cool. That is awesome. But want to thank you again, Steve, for coming down and spending some time with me on the machines and trying to get me familiar with the Milltronics conversational programming. I'm going to continue to work with that. I'm going to continue to work with Fusion 360 and try to be more familiar with it and be able to use that in the shop here for our work as we move forward. So I think that's about it for our initial Milltronics video. But I did want to mention before we go, we're getting ready to leave really soon here. We're headed up to Chicago for the IMTS show, and just so excited about this because I've never actually been to an IMTS show. I've been to Fab Tech back in 2018, so I got an idea of what it's going to be like, but you know, I've heard so many people tell me what it's like to go to IMTS, so I'm excited to be able to experience it for myself and be able to see everything. So we're going to be there from Monday to Wednesday of the week of the show. And on Tuesday from 10 to 2, I'm actually going to be hanging out with all the folks there at the Milltronics booth. So if you guys happen to be there, you know, you're welcome to come by and, you know, shake some hands and meet and greet and just hang out. But really looking forward to that event, you know, being able to walk around and just see all of the companies there representing their brands. All of the great machine tool makers in the world are going to be there. Everything from work holding and cutting tools and metrology. It's really going to be a great time, and I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of people that I have worked with over the past few years that I've never actually met. It's going to be a good place to actually put some faces with the names, you know, and the people that I've been communicating with over the past few years. So really looking forward to it, and I'm just excited to get up there and see what all is waiting for us at IMTS. So I hope you have enjoyed following this little process of learning how to do something on the CNC machines, and I look forward to continuing my education and hopefully start to put these guys to use with some work here in the shop and helping me get some of these jobs done around here. All right, so that's it. We're heading out of here. We're going to IMTS, and we will see you guys on the next video.